Hello, everybody. It's finally time. I'm very excited. I've been wanting to apply this stuff for a while now to see how it turns out. I was going to move the wheel to you so that you could see it, but it's too low down. But yeah, today we're going to be applying these. You really cannot see the colors over my webcam, and I apologize for that. I promise to take a picture and put it on my Tumblr as soon as I possibly can so you can see what it looks like when it is all done. But yeah, we're going to be applying these, and then if there's any time afterward, we'll start working on this, which is cotton that I've dyed. I've dyed quite a bit, but that's the only stuff that is dry at the moment. There we go. I actually just took some of the avocado dyed stuff, or all of the avocado dyed stuff, out of the dye bath. And since the dye bath was like even darker than it was when I started, I put in some copper mordant and some white wool and sort of ugly light colored yarn that I spun and dyed and planned on over dyeing. So yeah, I'm glad I got to. God, I'm looking for the ends. We're already having problems. Where the fuck is the end? Okay, that's two ends. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad I was able to get both cotton and hopefully also some wool dyed. Avocados. Crazily, only 4 avocado pits and peels, and I ended up with literally more dye than I know what to do with. I feel like that's not how it usually goes, but I also typically tend to collect way more, and that means they get a lot older. And with a lot of dye materials, avocado definitely included, the older it gets, the less you get out of it. So now I'm thinking, like, man, maybe I actually just, like, this whole time I just needed, 3 or 4 fresh ones. So I definitely gotta keep an eye on that. But yeah, very pleased with how that's turning out. I can't quite tell what color it's going to be. Regardless of what dye material you're using, it's like what it looks like when it's wet is not what it'll look like when it's dry. Oh, hello. Welcome into both of you. We're finally ready to apply this stuff. Very exciting. Just got to get the leader part going first. Was looking at electric drum carder prices and weeping. They're so expensive. Like $950 is the cheapest I found, which is crazy. So I think I might also look into guilds around here where I could maybe rent them, because I just, like, that's insane. I can't afford that. But at least I checked. Now I know, All right. Now I don't want this to have like a ton of twist. I want it to be next to skin if I can. But I also kind of doubt that that's going to happen, because I'm not sure if all the fibers are next to skin to begin with. It's an awful lot of rattling. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to try to not like overfly it. Jeez, I fiddle with everything on this. All right. It's wild how expensive they are. Hopefully I have a guild. It really is, yeah. I'm not part of any guild, but there are a couple of spinners guilds in my area. So we'll have to see. I haven't really interacted with any of them. My other idea, if I can't, like if that doesn't work out, is I've noticed that you seem to be able to find like kits to make make manual ones into electric ones. And those are a little bit cheaper, but like more importantly, it seems possible that I could jerry rig something. I just don't know if I want to, because even then that would be like $500 minimum for a jerry rigged one, and I don't know if that's what I'm going for necessarily. We'll have to see. I don't understand why they're so much more expensive. Like, there's no way the motor costs $500. Come on. A car. But I guess it's sort of because, like, drum carters are already kind of a luxury, and then the electric ones are even more of a luxury because most people can hand crank them no problem. I just absolutely cannot. You know, there's drum carters that can be upgraded to electric later. Yeah. And that might be what I go with. The problem is, like, I couldn't use the hand crank one at all. Like, even for a couple minutes, it'd be a really bad idea. But I was always thinking that that was going to be something for after I finish all of this cotton, which I think is going to take me a while. So I've got a little while to figure it out and contact guilds and stuff like that. So there's not really any rush. But yeah, I was just looking through all of my fleeces, trying to find some undyed stuff, and I came up with almost nothing. Like, I had a tiny little handful of random fleece, and I ended up having to go through my hand-spun yarn collection and find things that I wanted to overdye. Because I have so much fleece, but I've already dyed all of it, so it's kind of a it's kind of a nice problem to have, but also I have to find a way to actually like process all of that. There's a lot. Never understood why drum carters are so expensive, even hand crank. I know, right? Like, the parts are not expensive. I guess I mean, things like this that are so niche, people are always going to try and jack up the prices to try and make as much money off it as they can. And unfortunately, I think that's what it is. It's just people can charge that much because it's so niche and there's not a lot of competition. And the competition that there is has also decided to match those prices. So, yeah, it's too bad. There's a store near you that rents one for $20 an hour. I mean, that's still kind of incredibly expensive. Like, if you need to do some bulk processing, you're not going to get very far for a lot of money. That's crazy. So much of fiber arts equipment is ridiculously expensive. Yeah. For real. I mean, some of it I definitely understand. Like spindles and stuff like that, where it's handmade. But those drum carters, they're not handmade. Like, at most, you're kind of just using a power saw or something to like cut bits of plywood and then put it together. That's not, I don't know if I count that as handmade because all the other stuff in there you didn't make. You're just sort of putting it together. Which, you know, that is work, obviously, but is it work that deserves like $200 an hour? Not sure. And even some spindles can get really incredibly expensive. Yeah, it's too bad. That's part of the reason that I started making my own equipment as much as I possibly could, like making my own spindles and stuff, because I kept breaking the ones that I'd buy, and then it was like, okay, so I have to wait and save up for another fucking $40 spindle, really? Yeah, but I can't really do that with drum carters, so I don't know. it is expensive, but also you can get $20 much easier than 1,000. Yeah, that is true. I just think like looking at all of the fleece that I have to process, if I processed all of it at $20 an hour, I think I would end up spending about $1,000 anyway. I might as well get something I can resell later out of it. But yeah, that's very true. That just sort of also feels predatory though. Like that's the cost of how much they might pay like an actual human being. But it's a machine that they could easily replace with the money that they've already made. I don't know. I'm not a good person to talk about business practices because I tend to not be happy about prices and stuff like that. This is definitely working up thinner than I was hoping, so I'm really glad I didn't two-ply it for one thing. But also, I'm wishing it wasn't quite so thin. Like, hang on, let me check the card. Now, obviously, I haven't blocked it yet, but it's about 25 wraps per inch, according to my card, which is not many. I guess at least I'll get a lot of yardage out of it. You've been meaning to try whittling spindles like I explained in some of my posts. Haven't fallen down that rabbit hole yet, though. Yeah, it is definitely a rabbit hole. It's a fun one, though. If you do end up trying it, I'd love to see what you make, so please feel free to tag me if you post it on Tumblr. But it is really rewarding to use your own spindles. I gotta say, it's way more rewarding than using like spindles that you bought, at least in my experience. And I've also found that like it seems like most spinners kind of have their own unique little preferences about spindle shapes and stuff like that. And so if you make your own spindles, then you get to actually cater to that and get things that perfectly suit your needs, at least once you're skilled enough to make that sort of thing, which I don't think takes too long. I feel like spindle whittling is not particularly high learning curve, honestly. It's pretty easy. You've only rented a few times when you needed to blend the sweater quantity before you got your cards. That's fair, yeah. Like I could definitely see that being a very good option in a situation like that. We've got some air dried clay and made some whorls for some bamboo skewers before your shoulders got too bad for spindle spinning. Fair. I can't do drop spinning at all anymore, but I can still do a little bit of supported spinning as long as I have somewhere to rest my hands. If I have to hold my hands and my arms up, that's when it all falls apart. But I can still do a tiny bit of supported for now, but I have a feeling I'm headed right there with you. Done something like that, but with polymer clay instead of air dry. And those are some of your favorite spindles. Nice. Nice, nice. Yeah, it really is like, it's so satisfying to be able to be like, not only did I like blend potentially, like wash, dye, and blend this and spin it, but I also made the tool that I spun it on. It's very fun. And even with working with roving, that you didn't necessarily play any part in, still quite fun and quite satisfying. I love telling people when they compliment one of my pieces. I wear my pieces a lot. I'll be like, "Oh, thanks. I made the spindle that I spun this on," and they just like stand there, jaw totally agape. Like, people do that? I didn't know that was possible anymore. Like, yeah, man, you could do that. Anything's possible. Yeah, it is a great idea. Thankfully, it seems like I got out the majority of the VM in this before I got to the plying stage, but there's still some, that's for sure. I mean, there always is some, but it's weird because I feel like I always pick out all of it, like all of it that I see, so I guess I must just remove them. How else is there still so much left remaining? You loved working with them even though they objectively kind of sucked. I'm sure they weren't that bad. I also made some kind of terrible spindles too. And yeah, they were funner than the terrible spindles I was buying. So, like, that's the thing. At least when I started spinning, I don't know if that's still what the market is like, but when I started spinning, you could buy a terrible garbage spindle for $20 to $30, or you could make like 15 terrible garbage spindles for $30. And so I think I bought like one or two of those terrible spindles and then was like, this is insane, because they broke so easily. Not because they were poorly made, but because I'm not the kind of guy who doesn't break my spindles all the time. Like, I think at one point I was going through a spindle a week. It was not good. I just leave them on the floor and then step on them. This is still pretty uneven, despite being a traditional 3-ply, which kind of sucks. Usually the traditional 3-ply thing really evens it out a bit, but not this time. I mean, like, it's not crazy, but it's going from base weight to about a fingering weight, which sucks. That means I can't really sell it. So I have to actually use this thing. Oh well. That's all right. I'll probably enjoy using it. I just have no idea what to use it for at all. I find sometimes it makes it worse because the bumps line up. I mean, the bumps are going to line up no matter what plying method you choose, though. Like, same with a self-ply and same with chain plying, right? Or do they seem to line up more often like this? I don't know. With the polymer whorl spindles, you got a pack of 10 wooden dowels and some clay for less than $10. Thinking of getting more materials so that you can just hand out spindles to anyone who wants to learn. That's an awesome idea. I love that. You totally should. You're not as good about making your own tools, but today you wore a shirt you knitted and shorts you sewed. It was great. That's awesome. Making your own tools definitely gets harder the more disabled you are. But if that's what's holding you back, that's very fair. I kind of have had to stop making my own tools as well. I'm itching to make some more cotton spinning spindles, but I cannot do it, unfortunately. You think it's just luck whether they line up or not? Yeah. I think in my case, one of the issues is that I really did spin all three of these singles pretty unevenly. And that is just never going to lead to an even yard. But usually I feel like my 3-plies are, like my traditional 3-plies are a little bit better than this is. It's possible that it'll bloom a ton during walking and I won't notice them. Fingers crossed. But at least it looks pretty. That said, I have a feeling this is going to be potentially a 3-bobbin operation in terms of flying. We might have to stop and wind multiple times. Wind it onto the nitty naughty, that is. But yeah, so far I think I'm not getting that lucky with them evening out. They're more lining up. You know, I'm almost wishing that I had used that lighter stuff. Because I had the option of doing the same darker wool or doing the lighter wool, and in the end I just did the darker wool because I had already made 4 wool lags of it. But it's kind of all turning the same color with just a tiny bit of difference from the one that was from the vat, which is too bad. Although it does mean that it should look pretty cohesive and nice as a piece, but it doesn't highlight it like I was hoping it would. I have such a hard time with that sort of color theory thing, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's quite muddy. Like it's not quite as bad as muddy, but it's not enhancing it at all, which is what I wanted it to do. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if I had done the other color, would that have, like, it might have just gotten totally lost in that. So really, I don't know what the right move would have been, but it was not this. But I feel like this happens pretty much every time I'm in this sort of situation where I need to find something to apply a singles with. Like, I know white does not work. In the vast majority of cases, it just washes it all out. But I guess I was sort of thinking maybe using a color that was already in the mix would work. But no, it probably would have if I had two plies of this variegated stuff and only 1 ply of this solid stuff. I think maybe that is what I need. Whoops, that's what I need to do. I don't know. But yeah, I do always struggle with that. And I stay struggling. I'm very curious what you'll think once you can actually see the colors. And what it'll look like once it's been washed and everything like that. I feel like a lot of the time I hate something while I'm spinning it, and then once it's off the bobbin and I'm looking at it and everything, I actually really like it. So hopefully this will be one of those times. Fingers crossed. There we go. We'll have to see. Ah, I just made it worse. Okay. God damn. Wow. It just wants to speak so badly today. It's all it cares about. felt that way about your last project. Excited to see it, however it turns out. Yeah, that's fair. I feel this way about a lot of my projects. Oh my god, it's squeaking on the slide too. Usually if I just change position and change angle, it stops squeaking. So I'll just keep trying that until it stops. But it's not stopping. Okay. I could also oil it. I guess I haven't done that in a while. I swear, it doesn't do any of this stuff when I'm not streaming. It specifically acts up for stream. I just want to put that on the record. It's not a well-behaved thing. All right. Let's see if that helps. I doubt it. It might. Oh, well, it's going a lot easier. Still squeaking though. But wow, I really needed to oil that. Oops. My bad. I just don't understand what even is squeaking. I've never figured that out. Or like why it's squeaking. Something to do with the footman. The footman is the cause of most of my problems, but why though? Ah, sorry. Continually pause. It's just really annoying me. Try this. Eventually, I'll find an angle where it's okay. Okay. Wow. Sorry, guys. We'll get there. Eventually, we will get there. Easier is definitely good, yeah. I tend to oil it every time I start spinning on it again, but I've fallen out of that habit when I started streaming because, I don't know, I'm just sort of more focused on streaming at the start, and so I just forget. But clearly I need to get back into that habit a little bit. I did bring over my what little cotton I have that's dried. So depending on how quickly we finish this, we may start on the cotton experiments. Or no, not cotton experiments. We're done with the cotton experiments. We might start on the actual cotton spinning for the blanket, which would be very exciting indeed. My cat has been kind of destroying my oldest summer blanket, which is not one that I made. It's one that I grew up with. And I mean, to be fair, I think it's kind of falling apart anyway. I can tell the cotton is getting pretty degraded. It was heavily used for, it's older than I am by a lot, so it's heavily used for about 40 years. So I think it's had a good life. It's not really my cat's fault. But I could really use another nice big one, so. Would I like you to remind me when you're here? Yeah, actually, that would be, if you ever remember and you notice I haven't, that would be really helpful. No pressure, obviously, if you forget, but yeah, that'd be super helpful. Thank you for offering. You did a little cotton spinning earlier, but it kept breaking and you got frustrated and just stopped. That's the cotton spinning mood, for sure. I feel like, at least for me, that tends to be a prep problem. If it keeps breaking continually, I don't know if that helps, like diagnose anything, but yeah, it tends to be a prep problem for me. But that's unfortunate. It does get really frustrating when it does that. You need to pick up spinning cotton again sometime. You should, especially if you live somewhere where it gets warm in the summer. Cotton and linen are both really nice to spin in the summer for sure. Linen, I think, is a little bit more cooling because if you're wet spinning it, then you're kind of going to get covered in water while you spin, which is a good way to keep cool in the summer. So there's that. But cotton, too, the fact that it doesn't warm up in your hands is really nice. Helps a lot, I feel like. And I don't tend to have sweaty hands in any situation other than spinning wool in the summer. And then I have really sweaty hands. Once or twice, I have even managed to felt my yarn from that, which is, yeah, kind of ridiculous. So I don't usually spin a whole lot of wool in the summer, unless I have a particular reason for TDF. You tried it last TDF and then dropped it? Fair. Could always try it again next TDF. That one's, it's July, right? I never remember, but I think it's July. You just have commercial top. You keep meaning to try it out on your wool cards. Oh, yeah. That is a problem that's endemic to the commercial top. I hope it goes well if you do try it on your wool cards. Depending on the TPI of them, it might not work super well, but and I think that's mostly just if you have the coarse ones, like 54 TPI or around there. I think I have 70 TPI on my wool cards, and with some practice, I was able to get some decent ponies off there. Not as good as the ones that I can get off my 200 and something TPI cotton cards, but much, much easier to spin than the commercial top for sure. It is July. Nice. It's coming up. I'm already booking out to July at my clinic for new patient appointments, so it feels very soon. Although everyone is always like, oh my God, July? I can't wait that long, which is fair, but it kind of is what it is. You bought all this top for TDF too. Don't know what the TPI is, you just bought them because they were on sale. If they were labeled as wool cards, then they're probably something between 54 to 120. Those are the wool card ranges. And if it's more on the 120 side, then you'll probably have a decent amount of luck. Probably without counting, because that sounds tedious, probably the main way to tell would be just sort of assessing what kind of fiber it is best at carding or at going. No, at carding. If it works best with the sort of rougher stuff, it's probably either 54 or 70. Whereas if it works better with the finer stuff, it is probably 90 or 120. That's really the only way to know without actually counting. But hey, if you bought all the top for TDF, that's awesome. I have a feeling I'm going to be spinning, well, I guess depending on how quickly I finish up my cotton. If I'm still working on the blanket, I'll probably just try and speed run it via TDF. But if not, I think I might try and get through as much of my wool as I possibly can during TDF this year. I'm a little afraid of burning out though. Last year I only made it halfway and then I just couldn't do it anymore, which was too bad. But I feel like I could spin up, especially if I'm using my e-spinner, I could probably spin up a small bat a day if I dedicated the time to it. especially if I was getting all those bats from a drum carder. If I was having to make them all manually on my blending board, probably not. It's kind of crazy how long it takes to make things on the blending board. Like to make a, 1.5 ounce skein, so probably like, I don't know, 35, 40 gram bit of fiber. That can take me like an hour easily. It's a really long time. That's why one of the reasons why I don't tend to sell them is like, I'd be selling them for $50 if we count the time I put into it, plus the fiber and the fact that I'm often using naturally dyed stuff is like, oof, pricey. If I had a drum carder, I totally could sell them though. So much easier. You've been skeptical of trying TDF in the past because you don't generally like doing things because you feel you have to. That's fair. I think TDF is for some people and not for other people. And some years it's for me and other years it's not for me. I tend to treat it like a challenge, which is enjoyable, but then because I'm so focused on the challenge, I often injure myself pretty badly. And then half the time I'll just keep going anyway and make the injury a lot worse. So it's not really good for me. But I just like the challenge. I don't know. Learning to spin cotton really well is a project you can probably get into. Yeah, learning how to spin a fiber for TDF is it's a good way to do it, I feel like. Or at least it was for me. That's how I learned to spin flax, and it helped a lot. You're guilty of burning yourself out on TDF on the past. Last year, you just used it to try new things without setting big goals. That's not a bad idea. I think last year mine was to first I wanted to finish up all my half projects, and then I wanted to sample things, and but I found that was for me a little bit not quite cohesive enough for me to feel like I was working towards some greater goal. And so I burnt out just because I felt like I wasn't really getting anywhere. And because of physical issues as well, it really didn't help. So finding a good goal to set is definitely more important than one might think. I mean, a whole month of spinning, it's a lot for anybody, Even if you just do even if your goal is 20 minutes of spinning a day, you're still doing it for a whole ass month, which is a long time. I think we're about to switch the bobbin. Once I get to the end of these hooks, we're going to switch well, no, we can't switch the bobbin because this is my only free bobbin. We're going to wind it all off onto the nitty knotty, and then get back to flying after that. I'm really curious what the yardage of this will be. Really, really curious. I was thinking it would be a lot thicker than it is, and so I was thinking maybe 200 yards, but it's much thinner. So it could be 300 or 400 maybe, which would be really nice. But I'm so incredibly bad at estimating that. I don't think I've ever gotten it correct in my life. So that probably means I'm getting not that amount, if that's what I'm guessing. You do spin sometimes you do spin every day for a month, but that's just because that's what your brain wants to do. Yeah, same. It's different when it's spur of the moment and you're just doing it because you feel like it versus you've planned out a whole month of spinning and now you're spinning and it's been a month. Definitely feels different. I could probably switch this to the bigger, or to the smallest whorl rather, which would add a couple extra revulsions for the flyer per revulsion of the big wheel. But I really don't want to do that partway through a project. I wish I'd taken notice of that before I got this far in. Darn it. But I'm definitely having to, like, I could treadle an awful lot less if I had been a little smarter about this. Oh well. I guess I could probably fit more on the bobbin, but I do sort of feel like at a certain point I'm just making it harder for myself when I know I have to switch bobbins anyway. I see a point. I don't know. At points in this, I'm getting a lot more colors and it looks a lot better. But then at other points, when the two solid color bobbins are matching up, that's when it just looks kind of, I don't know what the right word is for it. Bland, maybe? I don't know. But like right now, I've got, like, each ply is definitely a different color and it looks nice. It's really nice. Yeah. I feel like I usually don't make the correct choice when it comes to plying, just because I don't know what choice to make, so I take a wild guess and it's never the one that I picked. And I don't hear anyone else really talking about that problem, so I feel like that's kind of a me issue, you know? You definitely try to put too much on your e-spinner bobbins when you should just stop. Oh yeah, I'm definitely guilty of overfilling my bobbins, often to the point where there's no more space anymore and it jumps the hook and tangles, and it's like, this was so fucking preventable. Every single thing of this was so preventable, and I annoy myself so much when I do that. I'm trying to get better about it because a couple TDFs ago, when I was doing the flax spinning, it was sort of a unique situation because the flax, when wet spun, was so heavy that I could only fit about half a bobbin's worth on there before it was literally too much for my knees to handle. Did that stop me from putting more than half a bobbin's worth on there? No, and it totally destroyed my knees, and they have not recovered. And so now I'm like, okay, we need to be less stupid next time. So I'm trying to get a little bit better about it because I really did taste the consequences of my choices. But even so, sometimes I will do that anyway. But I think that's about even. It's just that I don't like snapping it, and if I think I can get away with not snapping it and having it all be continuous, I will try, you know. But in this case, I know full well this is never going to fit all on one bobbin, so. Okay. So now, this is pretty balanced, actually. That's nice. Just adding a tiny bit of extra twist, because I know it's all gonna come out in a second, so this should give me a little bit of security. Okay. One mostly full bobbin. Camera. Yeah. It's just not possible to see much of anything under that light, but you can see that it's fullish. That's all I got. All right. All this water. Maybe I should just keep them as separate skeins. That would make it easier to wind up into a ball later, I think. And there's not really any progression to speak of. I don't know. Are there any, like, I can't think of any benefits to keeping it all as just one big skein other than the satisfaction factor. But I think I'll still have that if I have multiple skeins. No. Looks great. Thank you. Appreciate it. One of your antique wheels has the teeniest bobbins who always way overfill it when flying. That is really understandable. I would be I would be doing that too if my bobbins held like an ounce, which I know can be standard for a lot of those antique wheels. And a lot of them you'll only get one bobbin to, which is crazy. I don't think I could do that. Like, there's just so much extra winding you'd have to do, it would just destroy my hands. So I'm thankful I have 3 bobbins. Frankly, I wish I had 4 or 5 though, and the jumbo flyer. But like at a certain point, if I wanted those modifications, I need to have made them several years ago and not now when I will not be able to use this wheel that much longer. So it's sort of a point now. Oh, let me change this so maybe you can see a little better. Looks like a pretty greenish blob to you. Yeah, that's accurate. It kind of looks like a pretty greenish blob in person too, except there's a lot more play in it. Like, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. Look forward to seeing the pictures later. Yeah, I'm hoping that it'll photograph well. I might have to wait for the sun to come out and possibly take pictures at work. We'll see. My phone camera is not great either, but it is a hell of a lot better than this. It's just, it's not great with colors. But I will do my utmost to make the colors actually accurate, because otherwise it's going to look really terrible. As opposed to just like not quite as good as I wanted it to be, which is what it definitely is. This is not going to be fun to count. I'm already kind of dreading that. It's going to be so much counting. So we got the first bobbin will probably be done in about an hour. So it's unlikely we'll have time for more than like one or two poonies, if any, of the cotton. Because I have work tomorrow, so I can't go over 2 hours that much. So I will try and speed this up a little, because I do really want to try it out. I also don't want to go to bed late. I spent all day, like, half sleeping after getting back from a doctor's appointment. And I'm still so tired, but I have a feeling that might have messed up my sleep schedule slightly, fortunately. shoulder is not pleased about all of this. I'm kind of considering getting a yarn swift, because I could just put it onto that, but the problem is I don't know if a yarn swift would actually be any easier on my shoulders. The only exception being the electric ones, which I know would be, but it's like I'm not made of money. I don't think I could afford that, and if I could, then that would be money coming out of the electric drum carder situation, which I want a lot more. So. This would make a really nice shawl, though. But I have no use for shawls, and I don't even know anyone who wears them. So it would be kind of wasted if I did make it into a shawl, sadly. All right, that's the end. I think we are just gonna tie it off, and just do multiple skeins, because that will make it a lot easier to finish later, to like put into a ball later. And I can always count it even once it's off the nitty knobby, so just gotta. I'm so curious what my wool that's currently dyeing looks like. Because like I had the cotton in the dye pot for I think over 2 days. I'm pretty sure it was either over 2 days or like just about 2 days. And even so, I think I could have gotten more color. I just started getting worried about damaging the fibers. They were definitely starting to look different. So I ended up taking it out and putting the wool in. But like wool, wool never takes that long. I've kept stuff in dye baths for 2 hours before, but that's only it's only really special circumstances. An avocado doesn't usually need that long. So I'm really hoping that like I'll finish up this stream and go look at it, and it'll like already have soaked up all the color. That would make me really happy. Am I still dyeing with the avocado or something else? I'm still using the avocado. It seemed to have used up so little of the actual dye. I only dyed about 50 grams worth of cotton, but 50 grams worth of wool is about how much I would normally have entrusted to that much avocado, so I really don't know. You know, this isn't too bad. It's got like a bit of a twist, but it's fairly balanced for me. Mine don't tend to be that balanced. But you really can't see much coming through. It might be the lighting that I'm looking at it through. I don't know. I hope so. But at least you can kind of see the yarn, and like the quality and the texture. I'm pretty happy with it, actually. This always happens. I complain like hell when it's on the bobbin, and then as soon as I take it off, I'm like, actually, it's not bad. It's not bad. All right. Now we just finished off the rest of it. I think we might need potentially 3. I might stretch the second one if I think we're really close. And then I'll regret not having filled the first one all the way, but you know, it is what it is. We shall see. Nitty-noddying is terrible on the shoulders. You find the smaller one you have is easier. That makes sense. Because I guess you would have to move your arm around a lot less. I may one day get a different size nitty naughty. I have the 2-yard nitty naughty, and it is like it's the perfect size for the amount that I make. But that's only if I insist on keeping it all as one skein, and there's no good reason to do that. Like no important reason to do that, at least. So I might switch to a 1-yard nitty naughty at some point as well, because I have a feeling it'd be a lot easier too. Plus, on my E-spinner bobbins, those are quite a bit smaller, and they can't hold as much because of the weight limits. So that would definitely work better for that. What is it, Chuck? It's acting all weird all of a sudden. Nope, back to normal. All right. Back to Plying. Started looking out the window and realized not been paying attention to how much twist I was adding. I think we're okay. Oops. Definitely a little bit spacey today. I don't know why, but sometimes when I take all of my meds, I end up just with this incredibly thick brain fog. And it's like so impenetrable that the only thing I can do is basically doze. And I'll just like constantly knock off. It's really weird. And it seems to happen randomly. It's very annoying. And that's how I've been all day today. Luckily, have not yet nodded off on stream. And I want to try and keep it that way. It's weird. Like, I don't think medications are supposed to cause narcolepsy. I don't even think medications can cause narcolepsy, but that seems to be what's going on. It's quite odd. If it were more consistent, I would probably raise some concerns about it, but like, I don't really want to keep picking meds. It's so exhausting. Until it becomes more common, I probably will just keep going with what I'm doing. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not quite as attentive as I usually be, or I usually am. Apologies for that. Wonder if maybe I could like go in with nearby for an electric drum card. I feel like that might be more affordable, like 50-50, and then you just trade off. I might have to because $1,000 is just so expensive. That's how much I paid for my wheel, which is a much more. I mean, even so, it was an insane price. I would not have paid that much for it, but this is a much more complicated piece of machinery. It's anyway, I noticed. Oh, come on. I noticed a whole bunch of the local dye materials, like dye plants rather, are starting to bloom. And why? Why do you hate me so? I feel like it's just fucking with me. Am I personifying my wheel too much? Maybe, but I really feel like it's just fucking with me. Come on. Chuck is also very offended by the noise, by the way. Like every time this starts happening again, she turns to look at me in disgust. Like, how dare you make that noise? Yeah, pissing her off most severely. Okay, let's try this foot that I don't want to use. Classic. But yeah, I am looking forward to doing a lot more cotton dyeing because it's so interesting. Um, it's fun to get to work with like a totally different format. Are you kidding me? He doesn't like me today. It's okay to personify wheels when they like to cause problems. Yeah, for real. 8 minutes behind again. Oof. I hope your internet gets a little bit better. Because that sounds like a frustrating way to use the internet. Having been there myself. But thank you, I'm glad you like it. I think of all the tools that I have, my wheel is the one that likes fucking with me the most. The other ones are all pretty chill and steady, but my wheel is like, it's very temperamental. It's sort of odd. But it is also my most complicated piece. Well, no, that's not true, actually. I think a 4-shaft floor loom is objectively a bit more complicated than a spinning wheel. So maybe not. Maybe it has no right to be as fickle as it is. I say, giving my wheel a stern glare. just looked down and realized that my sock is absolutely covered in all the little green slubs I've been picking off. I guess they've all been landing on my foot. That's kind of funny, actually. It's like it looks like it's being attacked by a mold or something. I'm really curious because these are looking pretty close, the bobbins. I'm really curious how much finagling I will have to do. Hopefully not too much. But it's possible I might not have to do very much at all. The very first time that I did traditional 3-ply for something, I magically ended up with the exact equal amounts down to the inch on each of my bobbins. And I was like, wow, I don't know what everybody else is complaining about. This really isn't so bad. And that's never happened again since then. And I've done quite a bit of traditional 3-ply since then. It's just like kind of ridiculous beginner's luck. Hang on, we've got a bit of a twist here I gotta sort out. Not quite sure what's going on. Okay. You're so glad you're not the only one that just drops random bits of fluff all over the floor while spinning. Yeah, it's not just you. It's at least the two of us. My floor, like, it mostly gets dirty because of my cat and because my wheelchair distracts in all the grossness and there's nothing I can do about that. But I'm not helping by throwing random bits of fluff on the ground every single day while I spin. In the past, I used to keep like either a trash can or a little bowl next to me. I don't really have room at the moment. But when I kept a little bowl, I would put like, I just put all the neps and like whatever came out in there, and then I could use it to add extra stuff later. But the problem is, it's actually still not great to spin, no matter how you're utilizing it. That said, I read somewhere that the way that you're supposed to use neps and stuff for, like for tweed, for example, is that you have to felt them first, and that's what makes them better to use. But I haven't actually tried that, but maybe I'm due to try that at some point soon. It's exceptionally good luck, I know, and I didn't appreciate it at all at the time. But now I keep thinking, like, for the past probably 100 or so traditional 3-ply schemes, I've thought, like, well, maybe it'll happen again. You never know. It has not, but you never know. I'm actually really liking this. The more I apply it, like it doesn't look anything like what I wanted it to look like or what I imagined it looking like, but it is still a really pretty yarn. It's definitely growing on me, and I think whatever I do make with it should be nice. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be nice. It feels like it's I don't know, maybe it could be like a vest or something. It's not like next to skin on a sensitive place. It could not be a scarf or a cap. It could maybe be a vest if I have enough. You'd buy a lottery ticket if you won Yarn Chicken while playing. Yeah, I probably should have. Although that said, one of the places I worked, when I was in my early 20s was at like a corner store that sold lottery tickets. And I mean, I was over 18 at that point. I hadn't bought any lottery tickets in my life, and I still haven't. But I would watch people come in and like they'd pull out $50 from the ATM, buy $50 worth of lottery tickets, lose all but like $5, and then with those $5 of winnings, they'd go get another $50 out of the ATM, buy $55 worth of scratchers, and just like escalate it. And I had to cut them off sometimes because I'd be like, dude, you have lost $600. You cannot keep doing this. And they just get mad and violent when I tried. But oh my God, yeah. I think like that job has made it very clear to me that I do not want to play the lottery. And I think has hopefully prevented any future gambling issues that I might have. But I do sometimes do something or like have something happen that's very lucky, and I'm like, should I? But I think if it does happen again, like if I win the traditional 3-ply yarn chicken, I'm just gonna buy like a $1 or $2 scratcher. See what happens. Now I'm really curious. I could see both camps of like, well, you've used up your luck, so why would you think it would be lucky now? But also like, well, if you're lucky for part of the day, why would you not be lucky for the whole day? I know that rationally luck is not a thing, but then also I strongly believe in luck because it seems to govern pretty much everything in my experience. So like I believe in luck, but I don't trust in luck, if that makes sense. I think you can only trust in luck if you're lucky. I'm not a very lucky person. But if you are lucky, it might not be a bad idea. I'm currently remembering why I don't like 3-plying like this, which is that if I were chain plying, this would be a lot more interesting than it is. And because I'm not chain plying, it is sort of just treadle, advance yarn, treadle, advance yarn. Like I get to watch the colors, but I also kind of messed up the colors, you know. But that's okay. Even so, I think it's still somewhat meditative. It's still pretty nice. Good luck if that ever does happen. Thanks. The odds are so incredibly slim that I, like you, I doubt it. But, you know. How is there so much VM in this? I swear I picked out so much already. But there's just even more. I'm sure, like, if I end up using it, I'll find more VM when I'm knitting it up or whatever, too. But now that I've thought of a vest, I think a vest would actually be pretty cool. I don't know if I have enough for a vest for me, though. Wish there were scratchers that weren't gambling, be like scratching the stuff off. Fair. bet that sort of thing could be used in like bingo or something like that, which does not have to be a gambling game, although it often is. But like you can certainly do it without a gambling component. I guess it would just make the cards a lot more expensive. Like you totally could. But other than bingo, I'm sort of struggling to think of a situation where they would be practical at all. Fortunately. Mostly been using my better knee, which is my left knee at the moment, and it is not happy. So there is a slim chance that we may have to end this before I even finish playing anything, which I really am going to try super hard not to do because that will bother me a ton. But like now I'm using my right knee, which is already not, it's like not happy before I even started playing. So we're going to have to see. The good news is my appointment today, which I had very low hopes for because it's a doctor's appointment and those don't tend to be very helpful, unfortunately. But in this case, my wheelchair seating clinic is gonna try and get me like a loaner for a group 3 chair. I currently have a group 2 power chair. And what that means is basically the group 2 power chair is a power chair with no bells and whistles, basically. So it's just has no real, there's no like tilt in space or anything like that. It's got limited speed controls. It's just like the cheapest possible thing on the market, essentially. And I have it because that's all my insurance would cover for me, of course. But even from the start, I think I needed a Group 3 power chair, which is a power chair that does have tilt in space and that does have a bunch of other things that are supposed to help a lot if you're more severely disabled. And thankfully, yeah, they seem to be agreeing that I am more severely disabled, meaning I can hopefully get a Group 3 power chair, which should help a ton. So, because at the moment, like my knees are kind of getting shot, even though I'm not walking, because my chair height is not custom made to me. And I have no tilt and space options, so they're kind of just like dangling and dislocating themselves all the time. So, yeah. But hopefully, Group 3 chair soon. I don't know how soon though, because they just said they were going to look for a loaner, and I have just no idea whatsoever how long that sort of thing takes. But I'm excited and hoping. Oh, Chuck was in the frame. Yeah. She's also been sleeping all day, but she's been very pleased. She's like, finally, you're actually working with me on the whole agenda thing. Where we sleep all day, finally. Who's been very happy today? Well, we're definitely not going to win Yarn Chicken today. I can already tell. Definitely not. You never pick out the VM when you're plying. You figure that that's a task for knitting you. That's fair. I guess, like, I just pick it out whenever I see it, no matter what stage I'm at, because if I don't, then what I find happens is that there's a bunch of VM um, in the finished product, and then if it's a wearable, then I get really uncomfortable for obvious reasons. But I also feel like I must be missing so much of it every time. Like, given that I am picking out literally every piece I see, and there's some that made its way onto the bobbin, I still don't get everything. I don't even get close to everything. So, I don't know. I guess if you have better eyes or better awareness, then that probably would work just fine. But for me, with my horrible eyes and my not very good tactile sensation in my fingertips, I need like multiple passes to have a hope of a wearable finished object. Don't hurt myself. I'll try not to. Being this pig-headed is how I got this way in the first place, and unfortunately, that's just part of my personality. But I do have limits, so if I hit those limits, I'll certainly stop. We'll see. It's kind of less like when I still needed to walk to get to work, like to walk to the bus stop and walk around at work. There was a lot more incentive to stop when I felt even the first bit of pain. But now it's like I don't walk at work anyway, and I don't even have to walk to the bus stop. I just have to walk to my chair, and also I can crawl to my chair. I don't actually have to walk there. So, like, since everything else is kind of rapidly degrading anyway, I'm like, I might as well have fun. But I know that's also not actually the best way of thinking about it. You hope I get a better chair. That would be great. Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Fingers very much crossed on that one. So I guess I seriously underestimated how much yardage I have on the bat, because let me show it to you. I immediately dropped it. Hang on. Technical difficulties. Okay. This is how much I have on the one that was a bat. Why did I do it this way? Okay. This is how much I have on the second one. And this is how much I have on the last one. So I have a feeling that actually I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be chain flying the rest of the other one. I guess I could also, like, it's also an option that I could spin a little bit more of the solid color. I could card some up and I could spin it. I don't know if I want to do that though. Like, yes, it would give me more yardage. And so that is a very compelling reason why I might wish to. I don't know if I do wish to. I guess we'll see how far we can get. If there's only a little bit left over, I don't think it's worth it. But if there's a lot, I would rather get that yardage than not. Sleeping all day is great. Agreed. It does make me pretty antsy, but it's also necessary sometimes. And it can feel very nice. We finally looked up how to do a plying bracelet today. Way easier than you thought. Oh, nice. Yeah, I love plying bracelets. They're awesome. And they just get easier with time too. Because like once you've built the muscle memory, it requires no thought at all, and it's so simple. And also just a really helpful tool to have in your arsenal, because like when you're trying to do like really any amount of plies, if you're not just keeping your singles, whenever you have stuff left over, using a ply bracelet for the rest can be super helpful, and basically prevents you from having just scraps of singles left over. So that's awesome. You pick it out when you're prepping and when you're spinning, just not plying because it's such a hassle. That's fair. It is definitely more of a hassle because you have to stop and everything. Totally lose your rhythm. And then it doesn't have quite the same amount of ply as the other ones. For me, it's just it's a sensory texture kind of thing. I just cannot stand to feel yarn with VM in it. So I will do everything in my power to prevent that from happening by the time I get to the knitting or whatever stage. There we go. But yeah, as you can see, it is definitely slowing me down. I know some people who only pick it out as a finished object. I cannot imagine being okay with that personally, but it is interesting, like the varying degrees to which VM bothers people. Because before I met those people who only pick it out as a finished object, I kind of assumed that absolutely everybody was doing what I was doing because it seemed the only thing that was sensible to me. But now I realize, not really. It's entirely preference based, like most things in spinning, I suppose. Yarn with VM annoys the heck out of you. Also quite fair. So do you pick it out? Like, do you do your utmost to pick it out before it hits that stage? Like I do, or do you have another method? Just curious. I do also opt for prep methods that will remove VM. Like if I have a VME fleece, the thing that determines what prep I use is what prep best removes the VM. Almost always. Just because otherwise, like it'll save me so much time, even if it creates a different yarn than what I want. I'd rather have a yarn that's slightly different from what I want than a yarn that is exactly what I want, except it has tons of VM in it, because that's actually not what I want. So maybe if I had more, I could make a vest. I think I can. Well, no, I don't know why I said that. I have no idea if I can. I hope I can. But yeah, I think that if I do some more roll lags, I probably could. Because there's a lot, actually. Like there's quite a lot left on the bat bobbin. So I kind of think I have to be honest. The good news is, though, I can just spin one bobbin's worth and then put it on a flying bracelet and then hold them together. I don't have to faff around with multiple bobbins. So I am going to do that just because there's proving to be way too much left over. Yeah, you pick it out while pre-drafting and while spinning. Interesting. Pre-drafting does seem like a really good time to pick it out. I just almost never pre-draft. I'm not sure why. I do sometimes pre-draft if I'm using roving, but I rarely use roving. but it helps a lot with the problems I have while spinning roving, which is like the fiber tends to sort of all bunch up, which I know can also be mitigated by splitting, but then you're getting shorter color repeats, whereas if you pre-draft, like it just has different effects. So I prefer to pre-draft in that situation. And it helps with the compactedness. But like I said, I almost never actually spin roving. I do pretty much everything I can to avoid spinning roving. So I guess we're gonna get as far as we can with the solid color that we've got. And then we are gonna just make a couple of rollags and finish it off that way. Just to get every last bit of yardage out of this that I can. It's fine enough that I feel like I could probably make a vest, because it'd be a really thin vest. And vests are really great for wheelchair users. They're not something I ever would have worn pre-wheelchair, but now that I'm in one, I'm like, man, I do actually need some vests. Like jackets are a lot harder to take on and off when you're in a wheelchair. So, and vests are too, but they don't cover as much. So I feel like I would probably overheat a little bit less. That is just a guess, though. I don't know. But I have like several vest plans in the works, and they're all kind of far out. Whereas this is almost done. We're about to enter into the ply bracelet making phase. Because I can tell one of the solid colored bobbins is about to run out. And then the other one still has a little bit left after that. So I think, well, I don't know. I guess I could also just leave it, but it just feels a little cleaner to finish it all off first. That's what I'll do. You've been combing the VM heavy stuff, even though you card it after. It's a lot of work, but there's less VM. Yeah, that's sort of the thing that I'll do, except I won't put in the additional work and then card it after. I'll just stick with what I have. But it's sort of like, I don't know, if that's what gets out the VM, that's what I'm doing. Just unilaterally. There have been a couple of situations where I would have benefited a lot, or the yarn would have benefited a lot if I had chosen to do it the way that you do it. But if I am going to, then most of the time I'm gonna opt more for turning it into a bat rather than rollags, because it's a lot quicker than turning it all into rollags. That does only work if you have plenty board though. You never pre-draft anything that seems too fussy for you. Fair. It's interesting how everybody has their own preferences and typically totally different reasons why each time. I don't pre-draft just because I don't need it unless I'm using roving. But I do kind of enjoy pre-drafting. It's just that it adds time that I don't need to add in most situations, you know. All right, that was nice and fast. I've always been really curious how much individual preference in spinning was tolerated in, small communities, especially like Bronze or Iron Age communities when we know that they were spinning, and probably everybody was putting a lot of time into spinning. Is it like we all do it this way or else, or is it like do whatever the fuck you want, who cares? Like, I don't know. There's never any literature on it, obviously, so there's just no way to know. But then that also makes me wonder, like, did everybody do it more or less the same way just because it actually was, like, it suited them, it suited their conditions? I don't know. So curious. Fair, it's definitely a roving thing, which is the majority of what I have in my stash. That makes a lot of sense that you often pre-draft them. Like, roving for me I have such bad luck with it, maybe, or maybe it's all like this, but it all arrives compacted and sometimes somewhat felted. And I just have to pre-draft it if I'm going to spin it at all. Get yourself some sleeves because your arms are cold, even when your core is too hot. Those might be good for a wheelchair too. I think that sort of thing is going to depend entirely on your physiology. For me, usually I want my arms to be, like my arms will be warm even if I'm cold. Not always, but sometimes. So I usually end up pulling my sleeves up or something like that, which is getting increasingly really difficult to do. So it's kind of a problem. But that would be a cool idea, especially I could see how it would be useful for manual wheelchair users to be able to take off your sleeves when you're about to go somewhere so that they don't get all muddy and then put them back on when you're stationary again. That could be super useful for some folks for sure. It'd be fun to research. I mean, yeah, but how would you get anywhere with it? Like, I just don't know how you find any info on the thing, except I suppose by, going to the places on Earth that are full of people who are still spinning. I kind of forgot about that for a second. But I imagine that whatever the answer is, it would be cultural and highly specific to the culture. So, like, even if, for example, small towns in Nepal who are full of spinners all do the same thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they were doing in Iron Age Britain. It just means that that's what these specific people are doing, right? I think. I don't know. Maybe something I'd have to ask an anthropologist to get it. Okay. So here's what we have left. I know it doesn't look like much, but consider it's very fine. So I think if I were to spin 1 or 2 Rolags, that would do me, I think. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to, I think we'll even have room to finish plying it on the bobbin, although that's playing bobbin chicken again, but I can at least play a short game of bobbin chicken and see what happens. So yeah, we're going to do it. Roving can be a risk for a few sellers you adore that you've had great luck with. Yeah, that's where I'm at with roving too. Like because I like doing my own prep and have the tools too and currently can, that's generally what I'll go for. But when I want roving, there's a couple of sellers on Etsy who I trust, and I would never buy roving from anyone else. It's so interesting, but vests have never made sense to you because your core is always hot unless it's super cold out. Yeah, bodies are weird. It's always so strange what just like inherently makes sense to one person and then is like would not make sense at all to the next person, simply due to physiology. This is definitely going to mean that we don't have time for the cotton, sadly. But the next stream will just be cotton. So that'll be fun. And I think, I don't know if anybody at all has been using the playlist function, because I've been putting all these streams on a streaming playlist. So they're all just sort of compiled in order, because I figured why not. But I think I'm going to make another, like a new playlist, just for the blanket, and maybe one per big project like that, which is kind of exciting for no particular reason. But I'm excited to do it. Next time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think 2 Rolex should be enough. And if it's not, I can always do another one. But I think 2 Rolex should hopefully give me a tiny bit of extra, which might even be enough for the cast on edge, which I really like doing when I can. And then the nice thing is I still have a fair amount of this stuff left. So if I'm doing like a vest and I end up doing separate back and front panels, then I could always make more for the other cast on edges. So that's nice as well. Even though I'm going to use 2 plies from this bobbin. Yes. Although when you say it like that, maybe maybe not. Maybe I need 3 or 4. That's a good point. I thought that they were like spinning up bigger, because when I did 4 the first or the second time, it got me a full row and then a little bit extra. And there's only this much left. There's only like half a row left. But I don't know. But it's no hardship having extra of the solid color stuff at all. So maybe I should do 4. No, I think you're right. I think I should do 4. That's a good catch. Thank you. Especially because those were 4 when I wasn't leaving the barrier, and I am leaving the barrier now, so there's actually less on my hand cards. Yeah, you're definitely right. I'm going to do 4. And I should be able to spin that without too long. I think this is going to have to go a little late, just because I refuse to leave this 95% finished. It'll bug me all night, and then I'll literally just spin it at like 3 in the morning, like an idiot, and that will mess up my sleep schedule much worse. So, speaking of, it's empty. Why do I keep doing that to myself? I'll bring over edibles so that I can take one and like kind of be good to go by the time that I'm done. And then every single time I just bring over an empty one. I don't know why. I am going to get up and grab one though, since this is going to run late. Probably just once I've finished. Once I finish making these 4. There's also a couple of like knit and crochet top patterns that I have saved. I probably wouldn't use the pattern very much except as a vague guide, but that's also an option. Either way, I doubt I'll be wearing this until winter, but I do kind of like making things for winter when it's summer. Because then, you put it away, you don't really get to try it out, but then the next winter, it's like you get to get all excited about this thing that you spent a long time making. And also, usually by then, I've forgotten all the flaws that I made, which really helps. So, or at least all the flaws that were bugging me initially. I might find new flaws, but that can't really be helped. You like the idea of making things for winter in the summer, but it's so hot. Yeah. That stops working when it's disgustingly hot out and your hands are getting sweaty because you're working with wool. It's no longer appealing there. But then that's why cotton is really fun. I mean, you won't be making things for winter then, but cotton and linen both are nice and cooling to spin. Or at least not super hot to spin. Ugh. I thought I was holding a bit of VM, and I was like, this is such an odd shape for VM. And I look at it, and it's like the thorax of a bug. Ugh. I hate when that happens. I'm not like, I've gotten better about my aversion to bugs, but finding bits of dead bugs has not gotten less disgusting. I can tell you that much. So, okay, this is the last one. I'm just going to add in a tiny bit of yellow for interest. For me, mostly, and my interest, because I'm the only one who can see it, but still. Some dirty tips in here. It makes sense to make stuff in the wrong season. It hurts to finish something right at the end of when it would have been right to wear it. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, whenever I do, whenever it's like, oh, it's winter, let me make another hat because I'm getting too cold. That's always when the weather turns. And especially bigger projects like vests or sweaters or blankets, like, it's really annoying. Unfortunately, that's exactly what is going to happen with this summer blanket. If I'm lucky, I will finish it in the heat of the summer. More likely, I will finish it right before summer ends. So that would be a bit of a bummer. Although the nice thing about these cotton summer blankets is they're also nice to use in winter because they do trap body heat. They're usable all year round. But the benefits is pretty much only in the summer. So, okay, that's 4. I'm going to get up super quick to grab my edibles. So bear with me. Promise I'll be right back. Oh, goodbye. All right, edibles acquired. You use your cotton blanket under your winter blanket in the winter when it's really cold. It just makes space for the warm. Yeah, exactly. That's what I love about cotton and linen blankets is that, well, cotton and linen in general, it's that they'll still keep you warm. It's sort of like they'll keep you warm if you're cold, and they'll keep you cool if you're too hot. Linen especially is really good with that. And wool can do that to an extent, but I find it has to be pretty thin. Something that's thick in wool is never ever going to help cool you down. But a really thin wool summer top can keep you cooler, especially cooler than polyester. It's a low bar. Also, here's a cursed fact. I had a classmate named Polyester. I guess her mom thought that it was a beautiful combination of two beautiful names, Polly and Esther. I don't think Esther is a name. I think she was just driven, but it was rough. I imagine it's worse now because more and more people are aware of how much polyester sucks because that's what so many things are made of. But even as a kid, I thought it was really stupid. I was not a polyester fan as a kid, and neither were my parents. Yeah, named polyester. I know. Esther is a name. That's true, but I feel like it's pronounced differently. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, we had somebody with that name in my church, but it was pronounced differently. But maybe that was just a fringe case or just the language. I don't know, but that's a fair point. But yeah, named polyester, pretty rough. I also avoid polyester at all costs. I will just start sweating like crazy, and usually also get the chills. It just like totally fucks with my body's ability to keep my temperature, which is already pretty bad. Not gonna lie. So like, if my clothes have polyester and like I buy them from the thrift store and don't realize, I'm not keeping them, even if they look nice. I value my ability to kind of thermoregulate much more. Don't even real. Back to squeaking, of course. It's honestly getting really annoying. Like I have to. I'm in a comfortable position spinning right now, and that is when it squeaks the most. Is when I'm in a comfortable spinning position, and then I have to find a different spinning position, which is not as comfortable and is harder on my joints. But the squeaking really fucking annoys me. I don't even know about you guys, but it really annoys me, and that alone is reason to switch. Ugh. Oh well. Polyester would still be rough as a kid. I mean, we called her Polly Pocket. I didn't call her that. I didn't talk to her, but my classmates called her Polly Pocket, which I feel like isn't a great name necessarily, or a great nickname. So yeah, I think it probably just got worse with age. I hope she changed her name if it bothered her. You're accidentally becoming a walking linen bed sheets advertisement. I want linen bed sheets so bad. So bad. I just need to actually get a permanent bed or like a bed that's good, I guess. Because I go through my beds so quickly and then they tend to be slightly different sizes each time. So my sheets can't carry over. So I need a bed that I could see myself using for several years to be able to justify the cost of those beautiful linen sheets. But man, I also really want linen sheets. Cotton sheets alone are much, much better than the polyester ones. Unfortunately, like because sheets in general are so expensive, I do have some polyester sheets, and they are 1 billion times more miserable than the cotton sheets. They're livable, even if they're not like great, they're much better. You can't hear the squeaking much. That's good. I definitely prefer to not be annoying you guys as well as myself. Um, but it annoys me too much to let it carry on for more than like a couple of seconds. So. You would love linen bed sheets too. Yeah. Who wouldn't? One of those things where, like, as a kid, I could not imagine caring at all about the material of my bed sheets. As an adult, I care so much about the material of my bed sheets. It's kind of ridiculous. But I do like that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about growing up is that it's not that you lose interest in childish things necessarily. Like I still play some of the games that I played when I was like 10, actually, and I still enjoy them. But you just gain appreciation for even more things. Like you gain appreciation for the grocery store that has the good prices, or the route home from work that has the least traffic. Like just sort of broadens the things that you can enjoy in life, which is nice. Totally recommend the investment when I can. They're great. Good to know. Even the fabric to sew linen bed sheets is so expensive. I know, right? It's literally it's so much cheaper to spin my own linen and make like clothes, linen clothes or linen bed sheets. Almost like if I pay myself minimum wage, I think it would cost about the same, which is insane. Absolutely insane. I think linen bed sheets are probably cheaper than if you were to buy the fabric, to be honest. I haven't looked into the prices of either in a while, but last time I checked, that was actually more expensive to buy the fabric. And also, a lot of the linen fabric for sale is kind of garbage. Like it's made of really thick fibers, and you can kind of tell it's towel rather than strick, which is very disappointing. I bought some like $21 per yard linen fabric several years ago, and it's like that. I mean, I know that no matter what quality of linen, it will get softer with age, but you don't really expect like garbage for $21 a yard, or at least I wasn't. It really wasn't good stuff, and it hasn't held up well either, unfortunately. Yeah, the sheets were cheaper than the plain fabric. You nearly made your own, if that makes sense. Still an issue. But nice sheets, though. You know? I could kind of understand silk sheets too. Sometimes I don't like the feeling of silk against my skin, and sometimes I do. But I think that like silk sheets for the winter would be so nice. It'd be so warm. My main gripe with silk, to be honest, more so than the texture, is the difficulty washing it. Maybe I just like there's just some trick that I haven't learned. That's entirely possible. But I would rather wash like hand wash wool all day than try and wash silk in any capacity. I've been making linen pants from store-bought cloth. We wove some linen recently on your rigid huddled loom. It was horrible, but you'll probably do it again. Oof. Yeah, because of the lack of stretch and the warp, right? That makes sense. It's a strong reason to try and get or try and make a what are they called? Warp weighted loom. But if you have the same or similar problems that I do, warp weighted looms are just too difficult. But it's too bad because I really want to weave some linen as well, and I haven't for that exact reason. Is like I don't have a warp weighted loom, and I couldn't work a warp weighted loom if I wanted to. Which I really do. But there's got to be something to make it a little bit easier. Because, like, it can't possibly be the case that linen is only spinnable. Sorry, linen is only, like, warpable. There's got to be something that can help make it a little bit less terrible. I don't know what it is, but gotta be something. Going back, cotton seems so sketchy, which is wild. I know, right? Honestly, I'm surprised how stretchy the cotton I've spun is. Because it is pretty damn stretchy. I think, like, the sliver that I've spun, not stretchy at all. But the ginned cotton that I have spun, actually quite stretchy. Which, now that I know that cotton has, like, a spring shape, um, and my theory is that when it is turned into sliver or hand comb top, or sorry, it's not hand combed, machine comb top, or whatever they call it. I think that process stretches it out, and that is why it is so fucking hard to work with, but also so remarkably unstretchy. But even so, linen is the king of not being stretchy. That's too bad about using a warp-weighted loom for meat. Yeah, I got most of the way into making one, and then got too disabled to finish it. And realized I'd be too disabled to use it too, unfortunately. It is very sad. I've been considering a dowel with rubber bands to put tension on warp, so you wouldn't have to rely only on the discrete teeth on the ratchets. We must have very different rigid heddle limbs, is what I'm realizing. But that's an interesting idea. Dowel with rubber bands on it. Huh. If you do try it, I would be really interested to know how it works out. Because I'd love to weave some linen on my rigid heddle as well. Because I think that's about the only loom I can use at this point that I have. I'm only one roll lag in, by the way. I hate to say it, but I don't think we're actually going to finish this tonight. I might not even finish spinning the roll lags. That's really unfortunate. I'm going to go as long as I can. But if I can't finish it, then I don't see a huge point in super messing up my bedtime. So we'll play it by ear, see what time it is when I finish this one. You let me know if it, or you let me know it makes sense in your head. You're not sure if it will translate well to reality. Yeah, I get that. Always worth a shot though, like, because otherwise, how will you know? You know, I have to take care of myself. I know. I know. I'm actually not. My right knee is okay at the moment, shockingly. So not in too much pain. I just I don't want to only get like 5 hours of sleep. That does not go well for me. But I'm glad you understand. Thank you. Please don't be offended if on the stream tomorrow I'm like, so I did wake up at 3 in the morning and finish this because it was driving me insane. That is a possibility. I have done it before. I may do it again. I'll try not to. It happens, unfortunately. I mean, to be honest, it's my cat's fault. She wakes me up at 3 a.m. and then I'm like, once I wake up, I'm awake. I will not be going back to bed. So then I'm like, well, I might as well. So you can blame Chuck and not me. Thankfully, these cuffs have been helping a ton. The first time I wore them while spinning, I didn't think they were that good, and they are still a little bit rough while spinning. Didn't think they were that good, and they are still a little bit rough while spinning, but my wrist pain went from like a 8 out of 10, basically nonstop, to more like a 3 or a 4 out of 10 after wearing them overnight mostly. So they have been very helpful, and they're a lot less ugly than my last pair. And not as like water stained either, which is a plus, although that will probably happen eventually. But yeah, I'm really liking them. I've gotten up to finish fiber stuff before. I'm glad it's not just me. There have been a couple of times where I've just pulled all-nighters to do fiber stuff. Like there's a pair of slippers that I spun and knit in one night. It was pretty bulky yarn. I think it was probably bulky 2-ply. And yeah, I spun them on my e-spinner and knit them on some like size US 13. So it was pretty loose, pretty chunky. Shockingly, they held up really well. And also shockingly, I then stayed up for like 2 more days doing similar things and then passed out for about a week. I was unemployed at the time. So it didn't matter as much. But now it's like, I think I might actually get fired if I didn't sleep and still multiple days. I do not. I become a very unpleasant person when I'm not sleep deprived, as I think most people do. That's great about the cuffs. Yeah, for real. I always like, not forget, but sort of frog boil myself into not noticing how much I'm suffering from something that is entirely preventable. And then when I actually do get around to fixing it, I'm like, oh my God, why did I let that happen for like 3 months? And it's been about 3 months since I lost my last pair. I think partly I thought that I would find them again, but that has not happened. And like my apartment is about 480 square feet. They can't really be hiding in that many places, you know? So I'm very glad I just bit the bullet and bought more, especially because these were like $10 for both of them. So senseless to have not done that sooner, frankly. But that's how I am. Yeah, Ciarl, you were definitely right. 2 was not going to cut it. 1 has only gotten me this far, which is like 2.5 bumps. I have a tiny bit left, but it's not even going to complete this bump. So definitely look correct there. $10 right now. I think I might try a bit more of the second one and then call it. Because I've got a little bit left in me, and I have a little bit more time before I really have to go. Especially because I've taken the edible a bit early, so that helps. I've got like this whole specific bedtime routine that initially involves taking it out of this so that I'm at least tired-ish and relaxed-ish. So doing that early helps a lot with not staying up till midnight, 5 a.m. So at least there's that. Yeah, I think we'll try and finish this second one and then I'll go. We might not finish this second one, but we'll try. This one I definitely did not prep as well, which is unfortunate. I thought I prepped them all about the same, but clearly not. It seems like bits of this stuff have a ton of shortcuts, or second cuts rather, and then other bits of it are totally free of second cuts, which is not something I've experienced before. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about this fiber. I don't even know what breed it is. I got it at a fiber festival, the last fiber festival I've gone to several years ago. And it was in somebody's stall, and they had all this stuff that was labeled for sale, and I didn't want any of that, but I did see this massive bag of like mossy colored dyed fleece, and really wanted that, and so they had to come up with a price on the spot for it, which I, in retrospect, feel a little bit bad about. It was only $20 for like almost a pound of dyed fleeces. So that was a steal. But they clearly were not planning on selling it because they didn't have any of the info ready about like what it was, how it was dyed, even when they got it or who dyed it. I think it was just something from their stash, like an old thing from their stash that they brought to add to the decor. That's what I wanted to buy. But I was also the guy who was going up to people who, like shepherds who were displaying some sheep skull bits and being like, hey, are you selling any of these? Could I buy some teeth? Yeah, it was really cool of them. I wasn't expecting them to sell it to me. I was hopeful that they would. And I'm very glad they did because I do really like this stuff. It's like, I think if I had to guess the breed, I would guess that it's Spanish Merino, and maybe an older Spanish Merino, because it's got sort of the sponginess of Spanish Merino, and the softness, but also it's not quite as soft as you'd expect Merino to be. And I found that can happen. Like, I mean, older sheep, their wool gets less soft and a bit more coarse over time. So you can never, like, there's a wide range, of what it can be. So I think it is Spanish Merino from an older sheep. I have no proof, and I don't think I will ever actually know. But that's what it feels like to me. But really, it's like the colors are just very pretty. Very, very pretty. I'm a big fan of green. I can't tell what color this has all turned out, though. It could be blue, it could be green. I'm guessing it's going to be one of those things where it just depends entirely on the lighting. Hopefully, in the sunlight and my work light, it's a bit more green than blue. Big fan of wearing green. Not a big fan of wearing blue. I don't usually spin such soft yarns because I like making a lot of bags, and it's much better to make bags out of coarse wool because it's going to be stronger. So a lot of what I've spun has been intentionally fairly coarse wool. I'm just not, I'm not used to it being so crazy soft, but it is. It's very nice. Ooh, my laptop, my God. Well, that'll decide it for sure. We'll see how long it lasts. My charger is all the way in the other room, so I don't really want to get up and grab it. If it goes black, that is because my computer died, and you can definitely consider it. Hopefully, that's not how it'll go. It looks green to you, but that means nothing. Yeah, just due to screens, the terrible lighting in my apartment, and my webcam that seems to have the quality of a potato. He'll say good night now then. All right, good night, Seattle. Thanks for hanging out as always, and thanks for telling me I should do more than two because you were totally right. Hope you have a good night. I think I probably should actually responsibly end this stream rather than just let my laptop die. Especially because I don't actually want to read this. Yeah, here's the products of what we've done. This beautiful skein that's partial, like part of what we've got. And then this whole bobbin, which should be a little bit more than this. And then we'll get enough to ply this last remaining stuff with. So I'm gonna guess right now that we might get as much as 600 yards potentially. That is probably wildly inaccurate, but that's what I'm guessing. Thanks for the stream. It's looking great. Thank you for hanging out on stream and commenting and stuff. It always adds a lot to how much fun it is for me. And I had a great stream today. So yeah, thank you to everybody who commented and everybody who watched. I really appreciate it. Hope you'll have a good night. See you next time.